Welcome to the AlphaWarrior Show. We're excited to share diverse perspectives and expert insights with you. Please note that the views and information expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the AlphaWarrior Show, its management, or our partners. Each of our affiliates and sponsors and partnerships is a separate entity, and their opinions are their own. Today's content is provided for information and educational purposes and should not be taken as specific advice, whether it be financial, medical, or legal. While we strive to present accurate and useful information, we cannot guarantee its completeness or relevance to your specific situation. We provide all information as is and encourage you to consult with a professional advisor to address your specific individual needs. Your use of any information from this broadcast is entirely at your own risk. By listening further, you agree to identify and protect the AlphaWarrior Show and its associates from any claims or damages arising from your use of this broadcast content. Changes to this disclaimer may be made at any time and will be done effectively immediately upon posting or broadcasting. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you find the episode both informative and thought-provoking. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the next generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
How's it going, everybody? Good evening. Welcome to the AlphaWarrior Show. I am your host, Alpha. Life-changing podcast tonight. Doesn't it feel like we're having a lot of that lately? Maybe because the world is finally having a hard time concealing the truth, and the rest of the world wants to know the truth. And you're going to get that. I would invite you guys to download this show, clip this show, share it with everybody. As always, the links to find the material that my guest is talking about is down in the description below. So with that, you guys, cancer, one way or form, we've all been affected by it, whether personally or through someone we love. And you're going to hear some information tonight that I think is going to give you the tools you need, that should you ever get that kind of information, instead of being in a panic, you'll be like, I know what to do. So with that, let's get to two quick sponsors. And then after that, we're commercial free as we get through the content. So you guys, be prepared. It's easy. It's fast. The rich are buying gold. The rich are buying silver. Digital dollar. Listen up, you guys. Right now, it looks like the government's pushing for the digital dollar, which can mean every penny you spend could be controlled and tracked by the government. The government you guys trust so much, right? If that's true, then your entire life could depend on the people you don't know, like I just said, don't trust. That's why smart Americans are opting out and putting some of their savings into real gold and silver. So to help, you can go to alphalikesgold.com to get your free 2024 Gold IRA kit from my partners at Goldco. It shows you how to protect your hard-earned money with physical gold and physical silver, even if it's still in a retirement account. And as an American citizen, you can score up to $10,000 in free silver just for safeguarding your savings. So at the very least, arm yourself with the knowledge about your options here. Don't be the sheeple. Go to Alpha Likes Gold right now to get your free 2024 Gold IRA kit. And then our last commercial, and then we're getting into the good stuff. America's favorite mustache, Mr. Mike Lindell, with some new discounts.
You ask and we listen. We're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
You can't help it but like Mike. I tell you guys, his 70s, 80s commercials, they're great. You guys, my guest coming up here in just a minute, John A. Richardson Jr., a champion of wellness and alternative health, driven by a desire to carry forward the legacies of his father, Dr. John A. Richardson, MD, and family friend, G. Edward Griffin. John is the president of Richardson Nutritional Center, RNC. RNC promotes wellness and healthy living through safe and effective dietary supplements, including premium vitamin B17. And man, do I want to hear about this. John is also the chief visionary officer for Operation World Without Cancer, a global initiative aimed at spreading awareness of natural, organic, and metabolic solutions to cancer. His ultimate goal is to make cancer as rare as it can possibly be in our lifetime. So ladies and gentlemen, John A. Richardson, how are you doing?
Alpha, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on here. I just have to say that the production value on your pre-show was like I was chilled. I mean, literally, I was enjoying it. I could tell we are what I call equally yoked. We believe in the same things. You're obviously a patriot. I consider General Mike Flynn, a hero and a friend. I probably know him better than he knows me, but we hang out at the Clay Clark event. So I'm sure you've been to one or two of those. I speak at them. I just spoke at the one in Detroit. I'll be speaking at the one in that's at the next one, wherever it is. I think it's in North Carolina. But so your pre-show really got me fired up, and I'm really excited to speak to your audience because the truth that they're about to hear on this show, they're probably not going to believe when they first hear it, but it will literally and absolutely change their lives. And that's why they've hidden it from us for 100 years, but for sure the last 50 years, they've hidden this information from us. And my job every day is to get up and tell as many people as I can about it.
No, absolutely. Now, probably about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, I had heard vitamin B17 and apricot seeds. So I scurried to the internet because I was like, I want to know. And everything was, it was big pharma had its hands all over it. So to be able to hear it from you with the family legacy behind it, like I am stoked right now for not just my audience, me. Like I want to learn this. And
yeah, so I want to explain it to you, and I want to explain it simply. And because I do this so often, sometimes I go too fast, but I want people to hear that this book called World Without Cancer, written by G. Edward Griffin, many of your audience has probably heard of Creature from Jekyll Island. He dedicated this book to my father, Dr. John Richardson. My father, Dr. John Richardson, treated 6,000 plus patients with Laetrile in the 1970s, and he introduced Ed to the subject. And later, Ed wrote the book Creature from Jekyll Island at my childhood home. So I'm very tied into G. Edward Griffin. I've known him my whole life. I still know him. I just saw him speak in Rapid City, South Dakota at the Red Pill Expo. And he got up on stage and talked about the story of World Without Cancer for the first time ever at the Red Pill Expo, because most people know him for Creature from Jekyll Island. So you mentioned the apricot seed and B17. It's long been known for at least 100 years that the effect that B17 has on the immune system, allowing it to fight off cancer. Let me tell your audience, I need them to hear this. They're not going to believe me because we've been brainwashed. Cancer is a deficiency disease, exactly like scurvy. Scurvy only comes to people that avoid vitamin C. If you take out vitamin C out of your diet, you're going to die the painful death called scurvy. And 300 years ago, 2.4 million people died a year from scurvy, until the elites knew soon thereafter that sucking on a lemon, hence the limey term, or an orange, prevented scurvy. But it still took them years and years and years to let the normal people know this, because there was so much financial gain and control of the people if they allowed them to die of scurvy or let that disease continue. And so it sounds crazy. It sounds completely crazy, but they knew about it way before they ever let people know. And if the FDA was around when scurvy, as vitamin C was discovered as a treatment for scurvy, they probably would never have allowed it to be patented or discovered. So that's what's happened the last 100 years. I told you about World Without Cancer. The first half of this book talks about all the science behind how Laetrile works. And if we have time, I'll explain that. If we don't, there's other ways to find out that information. But the second half of this book is the part that's really need to be understood. It's the politics of why we never find out about it. Because cancer is a $2 trillion industry over the last 10 years, $2 trillion. And a simple answer, Ed Griffin says, at 93, I don't know a single person that's ever died of cancer that regularly eats apricot seeds and nitrilicides or Laetrile. And that's one of the first confusing things. I want people to know that the apricot seed has 20 milligrams of amygdalin in it, but there's 1,200 different foods that have amygdalin in it. And apricot seeds happens to be the highest content. So that's why we have people eat the apricot seed. But if you eat lima beans, millet, barley, sorghum molasses, apple seeds, you know how they tell us apple seeds are poisonous, and that's what you probably Googled 2 years ago. Wow, if you eat 3 apricot seeds, you could die of cyanide poisoning. That's
exactly what I read.
Lie. I regularly eat 40 apricot seeds a day. I know people that eat 100 at a trade show, at a Clay Clark trade show. I'll eat 100 or 150 apricot seeds, or any trade show. So I don't recommend that for people the first time you do it, but that story, that lie, is what keeps people running away from it when they should be running to it. As our diet has gone away from eating amygdalin and they've cooked it out of our food, our cancer rates have exploded. Now, again, if this was just John Richardson, I invented this, I have some crazy contraption that cures cancer, and no, this is not something I have the patent on. I've just been in the industry for 30 years trying to tell the story, mostly telling the story the last 7 years, and I could talk about that. But I've sold apricot seeds and B17 for 30 years, never trying to tell the story, because that's when they would attack me. If I tried to tell the science behind it, like my dad writing a book called Laetrile Case Histories, he published this book in 1977. Here he is in the front cover, along with G. Edwards Griffin's wife, Pat Griffin. They researched the top cases. When I say top, not the most astounding cases that my dad treated, but the ones that were diagnosed as having cancer beforehand at an oncology department, then went through my dad's treatment protocol, which is amazing. That's a natural treatment protocol. And then afterwards, they were found to be cancer-free. Let me just give you one out of the 90 cases that my dad documented this way, before and after, because many patients got great results, but then they didn't want to go back to the same hospital. They said, I'm done. I'm out of here. I run into people, they're still alive today, that were treated by my father or doctors like him metabolically. This is a young man named Shane Horton. He had full-blown cancer. He was sent home to die with 45 days to live after going through my dad's protocol for 45 days. He was sent home, and his cancer went into remission. Shane is a 59-year-old Alaskan king crab fisherman, still alive today, still grounding, still eating Laetrile to this day. And this is his scan 3 years later after he had had cancer. He came back when my dad was doing this book, and they wanted to show Shane's x-ray. The doctors didn't believe it. They thought it was fake. They had to go back to the original x-rays and know that he had full-blown cancer and sent home to die. But the book is chock full of cases like that. And that's what my dad was doing for 5 years. He started in 1972 with his first patient, his nurse's sister, who had full-blown cancer. He had tried it on our cat, our family cat that had cancer, and it wiped out the cancer with Laetrile. That was the first time he ever tried it. Then this first patient, my dad used it on her, and he wiped out her cancer, and then it just kind of snowballed. And that nurse's sister had full-blown cancer in her arm. It was spread throughout her body. She had done some chemotherapy and radiation, but they basically sent her home to die. She begged my dad to treat her with Laetrile. He did. He saved her arm, saved her life, and she lived for years after that. And what was his reward for treating all these patients and doing an amazing job? His reward when his practice was raided, his nurses were arrested, his patient files were confiscated. He ended up getting raided 8 times at his clinic in Albany, California, arrested twice, spent the night in jail, sued 4 times, and eventually lost his medical practice when they couldn't find a single patient to go against him because all of his patients loved him. We have books that we have on our website that my dad collected letters just from a 60-day period of all the patients that he had that had amazing stories like this. So his reward was that he lost his license. He eventually got it back. He eventually won all the 4 cases, but he ended up having to practice in Mexico. And then after years of stress, he went into a coma in 1985 and then passed away from a brain embolism, a blood clot in 1988. 45 days different than another doctor that I discovered in the last 60 days. So there was many doctors, and this doctor's name, I'm just on a free flow. So if you want to interrupt me at any time, this doctor's name that I had never heard of, although I've been doing this for 30 years, this is Dr. Harold Manner. He was the head of biology at Loyola University, and he studied Laetrile at Loyola University in Chicago, Illinois. He was a PhD head of biology at Loyola University. And this is what it says here in this little booklet. Harold Manner, PhD, former biology professor and chairman of the biology department at Loyola University, dropped a bombshell into the midst of the cancer establishment. On September 10th, 1977, the year my dad published this book, he announced an 89% regression of breast tumors in laboratory mice through enzymes, vitamin A, and Laetrile. Dr. Manner, a courageous pioneer researcher, says cancer is not a medical problem, meaning you're not going to find a solution to it using drugs and surgery and chemotherapy or x-rays, radiation. He said it's not a medical problem. It's a metabolic problem. Mastectomies may now be a thing of the past. This document, which is about 112 pages long, was chock full of amazing articles that are. We could do a whole show just on this little booklet. But this booklet brought tears to the eyes of one of my my coworkers. Basically, her name is Jan. She is a 15-year cancer survivor, and when she read that Dr. Manner told the world this in 1977 that mastectomy should be a thing of the past, but yet they covered it up. He was fired from Loyola University, and he ended up broke, but he had to move to Mexico to work at a clinic. They ended up naming the clinic after him, but people thought he had opened the clinic, but it was just a millionaire. And so he died 45 days before my dad died in 1988. So
it's crazy, John, that these stories are starting to come to surface, because it even seems like the stories have been buried. There was another gentleman, and I know I'm probably going to say his last name wrong, but I think it's like Hoxley or Haxley.
Yeah, Dr. Huxley. Yep.
Huxley. Yeah.
Dr. Huxley.
And I read the story of him. I mean, this had to have been within the last maybe 2-3 months
Yep.
of how they are same thing, like what they did to your father,
Yes,
arrested him.
Dr. Brzezinski in Houston, still around. He uses Laetrile. Anybody that's still using it doesn't claim it to be treating cancer, doesn't say it, you can't say it cures cancer. You can't, I sometimes slip and say that, but it's not even accurate. So if I do say it, I apologize to the audience, because there is no cure for cancer. Cancer is a metabolic deficiency disease, meaning if you stop eating the right foods and helping your immune system, you're going to get cancer. Just like if you stop drinking water, you're going to get thirst. So I have to, in order to keep myself from being thirsty, I got to keep drinking water. That's oversimplified, but that's what it is. It's a metabolic disease, and it's been proven. So Harold Matter, the guy I just showed you, he wrote a book, even though it's a little out of date with the rainbows up here. He wrote a book that I had never heard of. And I'm the son. I'm John Richardson Jr. I'd never heard of this book called The Death of Cancer by Dr. Harold Manner. And it's called The Story of the Research Involving Laetrile That Dropped a Bombshell on Orthodoxy. And Alpha, it goes on and on and on. The cover-up has continued for 50 years. We've known this answer, but they covered up. And so family members of yours, family members of the people listening, your audience, still think, oh my God, I got cancer. I got to go cut it out, radiate, or burn it out. That's the only things they've been doing for 50 years. And the cancer rates are going through the roof, and everybody goes into cancer treatment and dies. And so the doctors are starting to wake up because of this whole COVID thing. I'm so glad I can say things without being censored. This whole COVID thing, the doctors are even waking up. MDs are going, wait a minute. They were telling us to inject these things in people and do this protocol, and all that happened is my patients died. Nobody got better using the COVID protocol. Nobody got better getting these vaccines. Some of them maybe didn't get the full strength vaccines, but so now people are going, okay, if they're willing to do this with COVID and just do it from financial gain and population control, then maybe the same thing is true with other diseases. So good friends like Dr. Brian Artis, who I'm sure you've heard of, is discovering other natural things that he's doing research of that they've covered up. Let's say the word nicotine. This show's not about that, but they did this with ivermectin. They lied to us and told us this drug that's been around for 40 years, it's off label, so it's $40 or $30 to get for whatever you need. And they proved that it actually helped with this COVID thing, but they lied to us and told us, oh, it's horse paste. Joe Rogan, you're gonna turn into a horse, and everybody that talked about it, now they have to admit they lied about it because they wanted us to take these vaccines, which now they're telling us, the NIH itself is telling us that these vaccines are destroying immune systems and increasing the cancer rates, not because they cause cancer, but because they've destroyed the immune system. So that's the good news your audience needs to know, that even if they've been vaccinated and they're worried about it, if they get the proper nutrition, God-given, cheap, available nutrition, they can still prevent their body from breaking down and getting these diseases that are coming about because of the destruction of our immune system.
Let me ask you this, John. Is that why, and I don't know if this is true or not true, so correct me if you know, but is that why they are putting sugar in all of our foods? I've seen it in the chat on these different platforms, and people are like, that's why so they know it's a metabolic issue, is what kind of how I'm taking this. And that's why they're trying to poison us with sugar and everything.
Not only do they know, they've known for years, and the elites themselves, many doctors, and I'm about to say something that it's going to maybe shock you, but President Reagan was a big proponent of Laetrile. He believed Laetrile should be available to everybody, and that was before he became president. He was telling people that everybody should be able to get Laetrile, but after he was president, he got re-asked if he was still supported the Laetrile being available for everybody. And this article says that he reaffirmed his Laetrile backing. Okay. Here's the bombshell that I'm about to tell you that I didn't know until last 60 days or 90 days, because I received this truckload of information about Laetrile from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Reagan was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and he was so petrified of chemotherapy, radiation, surgery that he sought out Dr. Hans Nieper, who was another doctor, was a contemporary of my father's from West Germany, who brought Reagan clandestine over to West Germany on a Navy ship off the coast of West Germany. And Dr. Hans Nieper treated Ronald Reagan during his first term for 60 days with metabolic therapy, including Laetrile, and wiped out his cancer. He came back to the United States when they lied and said he was at Camp David. He was dealing with health issues and he was, being privatized. Back then, they could keep it hidden a little bit better. This whole thing with Biden recently, when we don't know whether he was dead or alive or what it is. 9 days seemed like an eternity not to see him, but they were able to lie to us about Reagan, and he wiped out his cancer and lived another 19 years after that and died of pneumonia. That's a breaking story that we have an absolute first person interview with somebody who I've interviewed, and we're just trying to get all this, the facts and data together, because people hear that story and they almost can't believe it. Can you imagine how life would have changed had Reagan come out then? But the pharmaceutical companies had such a tie-in with Ronald Reagan that he actually, even though he was a great conservative, he was the last guy they tried to kill with assassin's bullet. They still got him to sign a law saying that you can't sue a pharmaceutical company. So even though he wiped out his cancer and allowed his immune system to wipe out his stage 4 colon cancer, he still signed that into law. They still attempted to kill him. What reasons? I can't speculate, but that's the tie-in. What just happened with our wonderful President Trump, who also is into freedom of medical choices, and they also attempted to take out. He's the guy that authored or signed the bill called the Right to Try, which is a whole nother subject. But I come to this saying that this history repeats itself. And so if anybody's listening to this and they go, this guy John sounds like a crazy maniac, I'm going to Google and see, just like you did. I'm going to Google. It may take 2 years before they actually open up their mind. Like it took me a year before I listened to Brian Artis about one of his things about nightshade vegetables. And anyway, he's a friend of mine, but it might take people a while, but at least I've planted the seed, because once you get this information in your brain, they can't take it out. And I have no reason to tell this story. You can buy anything I sell on my website. You can buy it elsewhere. I've just conglomerated it in a way that people can get it easily. And that's how it supports me to tell my story. But I recommend people plant an apricot tree in your yard. Once the fruit falls, dry the apricot pits and crack it open. You don't need me. Buy a book on my website that's called Cancer Free with Food. It's chock full of foods that you can eat that are full of nitrilicides. This book will put me out of business if everybody buys it and puts it in effect. But the author is a great friend of mine, and I sell more copies of this, she'll tell you, than anybody except Amazon. Why am I doing this? Because I want to change the world. I wake up excited every day. I know that for such a time as this, because this story I'm telling probably would have got me shot or put in jail 5 or 7 years ago. But now it's the ball is rolling. People realize that we've been lied to about so many things. And go ahead.
I was to say, I had a gentleman and this was probably a little over a year ago. He provided me some information. It was hard to source it, but at least the theory behind it made me go, But he said in states like California and Arizona, and he goes, they do it in other states, predominantly here, where they sell you guys on this, there's a drought, there's a water shortage. He goes, and by doing that, it allows the counties and the city municipalities to put control features on how much water homes get to use. And he goes, what that in turn does, it kind of prevents people or makes people think, well, I'm not going to do the garden thing because we're already dealing with this water issue that'll put us in another tier, and it's hard enough to afford the electricity and stuff that's going on. And you see a lot of people talking about doing these home gardens, and it just seems like if they know, like they try to get ahead of these things because they know that people are going to try to be, exactly what you said. Let me get this book and let me see what things I need to grow to protect me and my family. I mean,
Absolutely.
This is just crazy.
Absolutely. There's 1,200 different foods, and it's because I was born into the John Birch Society. My dad made me a life member when I was born. G. Edward Griffin was a friend. Robert Welch, who formed the John Birch Society, was at my house as a kid. I've been living this. I've known the truth that they mostly want to keep us controlled, population controlled, and keep us sick and not healthy and not wealthy. They want to control our money. And here's what your audience needs to hear, that it's all about fear. Every time you give you a news story about fear, the truth is somewhere else. Okay. I know on our side and on the truth side, we talk about things to be scary, but we do it to educate people, to be prepared. But the other side just wants you to be afraid of cell phones and Band-Aids and, whatever. But if you can learn the information, you don't have to have fear. You know, God's on our side, and you don't have to have fear. You can prevent yourself or your family members from ever contracting cancer, because cancer is a deficiency disease. Remember, it's not something you catch. Yes, if you smoke cigarettes, it might be more likely that your immune system is lower, and that could be the reason that you might not be able to fight off cancer, but it's not the cigarette smoke, and it's not the lump or bump. That's what the current medical system is saying. If you get a lump here or a lump there, they want to radiate it, cut it out. That's the wrong approach. That approach has never worked in 100 years. It works worse than ever now. And everybody that does these things, it's just a matter of time before they come back. If you fix the root of the problem, then you don't have to have fear about this one thing. Now, this is just one thing, but there's many other things, like you said, about water droughts and things like that, and growing your own food and being self-sufficient. These things that you can take away the fear by being prepared. And as far as your health, you can take away the fear by having the proper nutrition. So that's where we're at. And it's great to have people, the light go on and people go, thank you for telling me this, John. Thank you for telling me this, because now I have this coat of armor, this God-given natural answer to the C word. And nobody in my family has died of this. If I bring it in, Ed Griffin's 93, and he'll tell you, he just said it on stage, that he doesn't know anybody that's ever died of cancer that regularly eats apricot seeds. What a statement. That's this guy, G. Edward Griffin, who wrote this book, and he's 93, and he's still alive and still holding Red Pill Expos, and he's got another one coming up in Tulsa in November.
That is freaking phenomenal. And we're talking like nothing crazy, no added ingredients. You're talking thing falls from the tree, you dry out the pit, and that's what you're eating.
Yep. That's exactly it. But it's more the reason why people don't eat the apricot seed, because they believe that it's got cyanide in it. And that's a small truth, because there's nitrogliceride and there's cyanide in things like B12. You've heard of cyanocobalamin, but it's tightly locked. So it's just like me saying, hey, there's chlorine gas in table salt. You would go, John, you're ridiculous. It's not. It's NaCl. It's not free chlorine gas. It's not going to kill me if I salt my corn. Same thing with amygdalin. Amygdalin's tightly locked with cyanide, benzaldehyde, and 2 molecules of glucose. Cancer loves the glucose, and it has an enzyme called beta glucosidase that breaks apart that enzyme. And now the cyanide and benzaldehyde attack the cancer cell. That's why it works. That's not something to be afraid of. That's why it works. People aren't afraid of taking B12 shots, cyanocobalamin. They're not afraid of getting cyanide poisoning, but that fear has been put into people, even on our side, even people that know they need the apricot seeds. You go, John, how many apricot seeds can I eat before I poison myself? You're not going to poison yourself. You're simply going to if you eat too many, you're going to get sick to your stomach, because your immune system is not prepared to deal with it. And you need the other enzyme in your healthy cell called rhodinase. Rhodinase breaks down the excess cyanide and benzaldehyde and turns it into analgesics, meaning pain relievers. They've known for 50 years, proven that amygdalin relieves pain. People can get off of the pharmaceutical drugs if they just increase the amount of amygdalin they take. Wow, what a crazy system, where there's this nutritional supplement called amygdalin that not only kills cancer cells, but helps your healthy cells be able to take in vitamin C, vitamin D, and all these other things that makes you healthier just by consuming it. Of course, the powers that be are going to go, no, don't run away from that when you've got the C word, because that's dangerous. We want to give you poisonous chemicals that are proven to be poisonous, and hopefully we kill the cancer before we kill you. There is no good positive side effects of chemotherapy. If there is one, I'd love to have somebody let me know about it. Where the chemotherapy that has positive effects, or, hey, I have a friend that died of a lack of chemotherapy. Doesn't happen. people die of a lack of nutritional value and a reduced immune system.
Let me ask you this, because I think the answer would be no, but I'm not positive. I know a lot of people right now, they're looking into cancers, whether to treat their themselves or to treat family. And so they're finding a lot of these holistic methods, like what you're talking about, where it's just natural and it's organic. Because it's natural and organic, let's say they choose to try, another plant that's out there and they say, and I want to do apricot seeds too. Is there any concerns there? Kind of like the way you have in big pharma where you can't mix medications. Does that exist in this situation?
That's the beauty of it, is this is a naturally occurring food substance. So I'm not talking to you about some chemical I've created in my backyard and I've got a trademark on it. And if you use it, I'm going to sue you and you got to pay $10,000 to get it. No, it's a food factor, just like vitamin C. But the more of these nutritional substances you have, my dad said, the better your immune system is, the better Laetrile works. So not only should you not have fear about taking any kind of natural, if it's CBDA is a natural substance that seems to work tremendously with Laetrile. Vitamin D works tremendously. Vitamin A. So you don't want to avoid these other vitamins simply because you're taking apricot seeds. You want to add it to your diet. The more of these beneficial God-given nutritional substances you do, the better your health's going to be. And maybe, you're going to help your heart issues, or you're going to help your lung issues, or you're going to help all these other things and live a healthier life because you're doing all of these. But the one they demonize the most, because I've got an article in here from Dr. Linus Pauling, who was a big supporter of vitamin C and got 2 Nobel Prizes. He supported Laetrile and wrote a letter to Dr. Ralph Moss that put out this video. I'm tying this all in. He said vitamin C is important in the treatment of cancer, and I couldn't agree with him more. Absolutely. If you take out vitamin C out of your diet and try to take Laetrile, it's going to be worthless. It's not going to do anything. You've got to have, my dad said 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C, but I think you could go 5,000 or 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C, unless you're getting an upset stomach. You kind of gauge it on if you're doing too much. You don't want to get sick to your stomach, but you want to build up your nutrition on these things, because the food we eat has no nutrition in it. Recently, they did a study that when you grow food in your own garden, it's 27 times more nutritional than what you buy at the grocery store, because they're just growing that to grow as fast as they can and fill you up and make you feel like you're full, but you're getting no nutrition. And is that a conspiracy theory? Well, no, they tested it and found this out. It's not a conspiracy theory. And are they doing that just to get you sick? No, they're probably doing it because it's cheaper to grow by growing, fast and, fast growing stuff. But it's a fact. That's where we are in our diet. We need to supplement in this world, unless we have a garden in the back. If you have your own apricot tree, you don't need John Richardson. You don't need RNC Store. I go on podcasts with friends of mine that we laugh about it. They're growing their apricot trees. They planted 4 apricot trees. Great. I'm happy, because I'm here for if you need it, but I want to teach people this so they can teach a person to fish so they can live forever, and give them a fish and they might live for a day. So that's a biblical principle.
Well, I'm a complete believer in it. A couple of months ago, I kept getting an upset stomach, and I did change my diet, And so one of the nurses I was taught, I think she was a nurse, and she goes, no, it's just what you say, your probiotics or something's out of whack, your gut. She's like, everything's centered around your gut. She goes, just order this grapefruit seed extract, just drip it in your water, a couple drops. And I'm like, you're talking, something that's cheap. Like we're in this mindset where if something's cheap, we're like, then it must not work. If it's cheap, it must not work. Because only the expensive stuff's supposed to work, right? $1,000 pharmaceuticals. And so I'm like, all right, let me order this and try it, because if it doesn't work, I'm only out a couple bucks, no big deal. And so I try it, and like that 2 days, and I was like, what the heck? I just poured something in my water, and there's another company that I'm an affiliate with, and they do like the mushroom stuff. Mm-hmm. And I tell my audience, just like I'm going to tell them with your stuff, keep me like dialed in on what you guys are doing so I can hear your real-time testimonies. Yeah. And so a couple of them were like, man, for the first couple of days I kind of felt like almost a little sick, but I pushed through it. And so when I saw about 8 or 9 people that had that, I was like, I'm very curious. So I hit up, one of the nurses and doctor friends. It's our bodies are so used to operating with poisons that when you start to pull that out and release those toxins, you kind of do feel bad, like, but it goes away. And every single one of those people that had told me that, they're like, man, I'm glad I stuck with it. I'm sleeping better. This is better, like just awesome stuff. And that, so aside from like its effects on helping the body, to build its immune system, what other things have you noticed, that like testimonies you're getting back from people that do this?
Well, general health is all increased. We have a little pamphlet that we give away free. It's called the 17 Amazing Benefits of the Apricot Seed, never once mentioning the C word. So hair growth. My wife said her hair grew 6 inches after she met me. My wife used to be the CEO of American Media Periscope, and she had 5 kids, unvaccinated. I had 6. We met and we got married, and so she's one of the biggest nutritional freaks that ever existed. And so she's told me, John, my skin is better. It's like silk. Her hair grows long. But some of the things they've said for years is lung capacity. So before the whole COVID scam, it was well known that if you had asthma or any kind of breathing problem, if you ate apricot seeds regularly, you didn't have that problem. So skin, zinc, the brain capacity, so many other things that apricot seeds are good for. Again, not a silver bullet, but it helps other things like vitamin C work better. Vitamin A, this Dr. Manner said, you got to include enzymes, vitamin A, and Laetrile in his, when he caused 89% regression in the tumor cells. He also tested on humans, which if you Google Laetrile, they say, oh, there's never been any human trials. He had tested on 15 breast cancer patients, and they all responded tremendously to his treatment. And my dad had thousands of cases. That they had a clinic in San Francisco that for 4 years had thousands of cases. But all of these combine all these different nutritional supplements together, and it all works better. So you're absolutely right. Sometimes you might eat better or eat apricot seeds, and you eat one and it makes you a little upset to your stomach. It's because it's working. So I tell people, if you start off with 3 and it you're getting an upset stomach, it's not cyanide poisoning. If it was, I'd be long since dead, and I'd be killing people every year because we sell thousands and thousands of pounds of apricot seeds, and no one's ever died from an apricot seed overdose, even though that lie is told. Anyway, if you get sick, it's working, but just back up 1 or 2 and let it go slower. Ed Griffin says, all you need is 5 to 10 a day. You don't need to take 40 like this crazy person does. But the last person you want to have die of cancer would be me. And I don't know anybody in my family who's died of it, and I never will. So I'd rather be overkill. So I actually take a 500 milligram every day, capsule pure, and do the apricot seeds. But warning, don't do it together, because there's beta glucosidase in apricot seeds. So if you take the pure Laetrile along with the seeds, you will get upset to your stomach, because it breaks it down too fast for your body to catch up. So I tell people, I take my capsule in the morning when I wake up. My wife does my vitamins. She's just one of the amazing things she does for me. And we both take it a 500 milligram. And then later in the day, I start eating my seeds. And usually by this time of day, I've eaten 40 seeds a day as well.
So, I'm picturing the apricot seed. So if somebody orders from you, the seeds, we're talking like the actual seeds is what's being shipped to them.
Yeah.
And they just open up the bag and just start chowing down.
Normally I'd have a bag with me. And of course I just, excuse me. I normally have a bag with me, and I'd eat them and all that kind of stuff. But I told you pre-show that I'm traveling right now. So I have my capsules and I've already taken them. So I'll be back in the office tomorrow or on Thursday. And so I'll be back eating the seeds as regularly as I do when I'm at home. But yes, that's exactly what it is. You're basically a $35 bag of seeds lasts somebody, if they eat 10 apricot seeds a day, it'll last somebody 5 months. Think about that, Alpha. Here, look at this. I'm thinking about apricot seeds and I'm giving a cough. Think about that compared to $8,000 per course of chemotherapy, which people don't survive from, and they will try to scare you away from eating apricot seeds because it's a scam, it's a quack. Even if it just makes your hair grow better. And oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you about libido. A lot of people love apricot seeds because it increases their libido, and that's not even in our pamphlet either. But the absolute fact is that the apricot seed is such powerful nutrition, but yet they try to scare people because of the cyanide, when chemotherapy on its face is poison that they just hope to kill the cancer before they kill you. That's the whole idea of chemotherapy. And it works in about 4% of the cases where the cancer goes away. But I'm convinced that it doesn't work ever, that eventually that person, if they don't change their diet, they're going to die of cancer because it's a deficiency disease, not a disease, something you catch.
And so essentially this apricot seed is B17 then, correct?
Yes. Well, B17 is the name that Dr. Ernst Krebs gave it in the 70s. His father, Ernst Krebs Sr., used purified amygdala in his medical practice. Krebs called it B17 because it went in the same line of cyanide-containing compounds as B12, B15, which is pangamic acid, B13. And he said it looks kind of like it. Under a microscope, it looks the crystalline substance, so he just called it B17. According to the FDA, it's never been officially called that because the FDA hasn't approved a vitamin since the 1950s. They never will provide a cheap, God-given natural substance as they'll never provide call it legal to call it a treatment because there's no money in it. They're tied completely, for better or worse, whatever you think, whether it's conspiracy or not. The FDA and Big Pharma are tied very closely together. People go back and forth between the two, and it's all about profit. They really don't care about making people well. They really care about making profit. That's the key thing about the pharmaceutical industry.
I see a great comment in one of the chats from ST Spears. Said, I try to eat the seeds, but I can't stand the taste. So they'll do the pills.
Yep, that's true.
Okay, so I was to say, for those
I've been eating them 50 years and I still can't stand it. But I get energy from it and I get such invigoration and I do so much. But that's the most natural way to eat it. But maybe, if you don't like eating 10 oranges to get your vitamin C, you just take a capsule. And that's why we offer it in 4 or 5 different ways. And we're adding things all the time. We sell it as the seeds. We sell it as seed meal that's pressed out and ground up for you. We sell it as a seed capsule. Then we sell it in the purified version, which we call Laetril. It's the same thing, all the same thing, just when it's purified, it's the trademark name is Laetril. And then we sell it in 500 milligram capsules. Actually, we sell it in another way, which is the liquid B17, which people use as an immune booster. Just like if you were getting vitamin C, IV vitamin C, we can get you a purified vitamin Laetril B17 and injectables. So you can put it in an IV if you really want to get a lot, because people ask all the time, how much do I need if I've got this thing? And I tell people, first off, I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing anything. I don't have any patients, but Dr. Krebs, Ernst Krebs, who was the leading scientist behind this, and along with all these other doctors, said, get as much into your system as your immune system can handle if you've got an issue. And so doctors would do regularly 12 grams a day of Laetril, which you need to eat like, I think 500 apricot seeds to get that much. So it's not going to happen. So that's why we offer it in different versions on our website.
I'm tracking. So, and I would imagine, well, first, is this something that, kids can also entertain, or is it just too hard to get them past the taste?
Well, if it's kids, we have different ways to do it, but we mix it in a smoothie. You grind up, you use the powdered apricot seeds, you mix it in a smoothie, you mix it in their oatmeal, you just do enough. They don't need a lot, but yes, they do need it. It's not a drug. That's what I want everybody to hear. It's a vitamin. Okay, let's not even call it a vitamin. It's called a food factor. It's just a nutritional substance, just like many others that you can mention that aren't classified as a vitamin. So let's forget the vitamin tag for a second. It's found in 1,200 different foods. Can you feed your kids lima beans, millet, barley? Do you want them to eat sorghum molasses? Do you want them to eat the apple core? When they eat an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Tell them to chew the seeds too. Even though they're bitter, you have some rhodinase in the apple fruit. So it's a great way for kids to start on their diet. And they only need 50 to 100 milligrams a day. And it may just prevent your kid from ever getting the C word. And that's an epidemic on its own, especially with the 72 different shots the kid growing up in California is required to take before he gets to go to public school. So any way you can get nutrition in your kid's system, you want to do it 100%.
I think it's fundamentally one of the most important conversations we need to have. Somebody told me one time, and I was just like, why would they ask me to do that? They said, hey, go look at California beach photos from the 40s and 50s. And then go look at them now. So I'm just like, And at first I didn't get it. I was thinking, well, maybe they're talking about like the provocative beach wear. They're like, no, man, look again. So I'm sitting there and then it clicked. I was like, you don't see any heavy set people back then.
No.
And I'm like, there's no way everybody was going to the gym. There's no way everybody was running all day. So what the hell changed in 60, 70 years?
Well, one of the nutritional value in the food, but here's the three things that my wife says all the time, and she just got me to be a big believer. Sugar, stay away from it. Gluten, I'm sorry, everybody. Bread has lots of gluten in it. You can get gluten-free bread. Uh, um, flax bread, the bread, what they used to make bread out of had laetrile in it. And at the turn of the century, or like during the 20s, they went to wheat because it was cheaper and it filled you up and it stuck to your gut. So gluten is everywhere in our diet. Sugar, gluten, and then the third one is dairy. We're not made to eat dairy. A lot of people love cheese and all that kind of stuff. You can have butter, but my wife says if you're fighting any kind of sicknesses or you want to be healthier, just get rid of those three things and make sure you're taking the proper supplements, and your life is going to be so much better. It's not hard. It seems like it's hard at first. I can't eat pizza anymore. Well, that's not true. You can have cauliflower crust pizza with feta cheese, and it doesn't have the things that make you unhealthy. And my wife can look at somebody's skin and say they are eating too much cheese, and that's why their face is breaking out. So you can see it, you can hear it, and their breathing and things like that. And so she's got me, because I've always been a believer in apricot seeds. I've eaten my whole life, but she's gotten me healthier than I've ever been, just giving me choices. One of the main ones is to stay away from sugar. It's just a poison. And that's what's happened to us. We used to eat, barely any sugar. Now we eat, I think, pounds and pounds. I don't know. Somebody said 25 pounds of sugar in the average American diet every year.
That's just insane, John. I want to give you, before we got a couple minutes before we wrap this up. Is there anything else you want to make sure that the audience understands? I've had across the bottom of the screen, scrolling for them to have the link to get to your store. But is there anything you want to make sure the audience knows? Is there anything, other things that you offer at your store that they can look for? I want to give it to you to make sure we don't skip out on anything.
Well, no, please look at the store. And the one thing I do want people to hear is fear is false evidence appearing real. So don't let them cause you have fear about cancer, because if you know the truth, you don't have fear anymore. This video came out 10 years ago. It had 450,000 views on YouTube in 3 days, and they deleted it. The producer lost money, and we got a hold of it. It came out 10 years ago, and this is about that laetrile at Sloan Kettering in the 70s, when they proved it stopped the spread of cancer, and then they lied about it. You can go to my website, watch it for free using Alpha as your code. Make sure you go to rncstore.com /alpha, and you can go to our podcast section and watch this absolutely free, or you can support the producer buying it for $15. So fear, false evidence appearing real, goes away if you're educated. They can't take that away. They might be able to outlaw in Australia. I saw someone comment they outlawed apricot seeds in Australia. They didn't really outlaw it. They just said you can't take it eternally. So they sell apricot seeds in Australia as a facial scrub, and whoops, once in a while it slips into your mouth. So they tried to outlaw in Canada. That's being fought back. But they can outlaw apricot seeds all they want or whatever, but it's found in 1,200 different foods. So you just increase lima beans and millet and barley and sorghum molasses and the little seeds on the side of strawberries, any kind of other stone fruits. And they're not going to take away apricots out of the store. You can buy your apricots and save the pits, dry them for 3 days, crack them with a hammer, and eat the seeds. That's the message I want to tell people. No matter what, this information will change your life.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm stoked. I'm going to do the seeds. I'm like you, man. I just get gun ho. So I'm just like, I'll do the same thing. I'll do the pill in the morning, and then I'll just start grubbing seeds all day, because I just like to do it that way. So
well, I recommend, again, if you do the capsule in the morning, wait 3 hours and start out eating 3 to 5. And I've had people eat many more than that and have wonderful benefits, but start out, you don't have to do it all one day, or like more is not necessarily better, because people do get sick to their stomach, especially if they're dealing something. And the chemical reaction is very easy to explain, but you don't have to have the fear about the cyanide poisoning lie. is a lie. It's absolutely a lie. And I could tell many stories about why it is, but don't have fear.
Yeah, I'm so excited, John, that there's people like you, especially that have the family legacy behind you, that are like, there's just, you never quit. You just kept going, and there's people sending me stuff that I'm like, wait, what? Because I saw a comment where like, people don't use sunscreen anymore because the agents that are in there, and people telling me about Australian honeys and these things for injuries and cuts and diaper rashes, and it's all just natural stuff. Now granted, great minds like yourself have made it easier to like, hey, you can go to the store, you can just buy it and have this large concentration of it, but it's just organic stuff.
Yeah, it grows naturally. God gave it to us. Genesis 1:29. For anybody that wants to look up that verse, you'll get a kick out of it. It's what is on the mirror in our office as we come in. It's what guides our company. And God gave us the seed for food. Don't forget to eat the seeds. When you're eating a watermelon, eat the seeds. When you're eating an apple, eat the seeds. When you're eating a pear, eat the seeds. When you're eating an apricot, dry the pit out. Don't eat the pit. That's too hard. That'll break your teeth. Crack the pit. That's where the real pure truth is, inside that seed. And so thank you, Alpha. I also have another, believe it or not, I have another podcast with a Silk of Diamond and Silk.
Oh, heck yeah.
But funny part about it is, well, that's good. We're going to be, I'm going to be telling her something, but her name is Mrs. Richardson and her husband's name is John Richardson. So we've kind of developed a little funny friend. Hi, Mrs. Richardson. So kind of a funny thing. She's my sister from another Mister. So yeah,
she's an amazing person, and she lost an amazing friend, and
she did.
Yeah, 100%. Well, John, I appreciate it. You guys, link is down in the description. Stay tuned. Before we get into the final commercials and my final thoughts, I got a trailer for you guys on the movie that John just talked about. John, I'll talk to you later, brother. Take it easy.
All right, I can't wait to see you again.
Laetrile, derived from apricot pits, has been banned in the United States since 1963. The Food and Drug Administration says it's harmless, but also worthless in fighting cancer. But in Mexico, it's legal.
Newsweek estimated that 70,000 Americans went across the border to get Laetrile in Mexico.
We're going through hell, smuggling it across borders, bootlegging it, doing things we've never done in our lives.
Would you be prepared to buy illegally obtained Laetrile in order to have it? I'd steal it.
My impression of Laetrile was that this was sort of another example of the madness and delusion of crowds, and showed the gullibility of people in the face of disaster. I came away quite astonished, really. Sloan Kettering pleaded with the assembled powers that be in the medical field. That's to say, the FDA, the National Cancer Institute, the NIH, and the American Cancer Society. The bottom line was, we think that we should do clinical trials. They're excited about it. Suddenly, the statements that they were making, each of the top leaders, became increasingly negative. Nothing was happening scientifically to trigger those comments.
We tried to find out from scientific information available whether there was any real scientific evidence that the drug amygdalin, or the so-called Laetrile, had any effect on cancer in any form, and there was no such scientific evidence.
We do not have evidence. There is no evidence.
That's a lie. Quite pure and simple a lie. It crystallized in my mind that this was a cover-up. And my response was to leak the documents. I wanted my job, and I also wanted to have a clear conscience. The second opinion was largely anonymous. It was written by Sloan Kettering employees. You had no protection of your freedom of speech. You would have been fired if you had associated yourself publicly. We couldn't believe that people would actually do this and lie about a promising treatment for cancer. They should, for their own good, they should come clean. about this, because it's, you can't live a lie, whether you're an individual, or an institution. That lie will weigh you down.
Let me get that off the screen right there. You guys, listen, I'm getting the emails from you guys. I'm getting the messages from you guys. Hold on, let me hit pause because that's still playing in my ear. It's going to be distracting. One, pray for John Richardson and his family, because as these things become more popular, the way the alphabet agencies and big pharma like to make things uncomfortable for people. I saw in the chat, how do I get it? Link's been scrolling across the bottom of the screen, rncstore.com/alpha, new affiliate with them. So I'll be ordering my stuff today. Like I said, I'll be doing the pills and the seeds because I want to go at it like that. And I'll probably eat a bunch of seeds too. And then probably have to deal with the flavor of that. I just want to, go hard is pretty much what I want to do. For those of you that also do it, the same way you guys were doing it with the Coriolis Versicolor with the Pet Store 24/7, those links are down there too. Keep me tabbed on here. Want to know how it's working for you guys' blood pressure, all these different things. So when you guys give me this feedback, it allows me, when I do shows, or you guys know I do a lot of the virtual town halls on X Spaces, I get to share your guys' stories. Don't ever share your guys' names. I keep your privacy. But it's nice to say, hey, I had a person that was trying this, and after 2 weeks, they had these kind of experiences, or after a few months, they had this kind of experiences. So I really appreciate you guys when, you share those testimonies with me. And like I said, unless you tell me, I'll always keep it private. If you don't mind me sharing who it's coming from, I'll do that as well. You guys, the Alpha Warrior Show. I'm your host, Alpha. First in, last out, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, or the latest 9:30, depending on things that may happen. A lot of stuff going on. There was a video that was just released today. Chuck Grassley released it, and it has to do with the body cam footage from Donald Trump's attempted assassination thing. I put out the video that he put out. It's very hard to hear the audio, so I went and souped up the audio for make it easier to hear, and I put a transcription out of it on there on my X for those that want to see it. I'm going to watch it a few more times and listen to it, and then I'll share my thoughts on it, because you guys are blowing me up right now with, what do you think? What do you think? I really want to digest it and look at it. I do have some initial thoughts. I'm not very happy with that video if my initial thoughts are correct. So just stay tuned. Next few days, we'll go more into that. Do me a favor, you guys, stick around, support the people that support this show. Catch me on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, sit rep with my brother Ken Khan, and I'll catch you guys next time. God bless and Semper Fi.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolis Versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
Are you worried about the effects that higher inflation rates will have on your investments? Are you trying to secure your retirement savings against losses, but you notice that inflation is a hot topic these days? But how dangerous are low inflation rates on your retirement savings? An inflation rate of 2% may not seem like much, but it means that prices will just about quintuple over the lifetime of the average American. And 4% average inflation rate means that something that costs $1 when they're born will cost $23 when they die. That demonstrates the danger of even low inflation rates. So when it comes to gold and inflation rates, many investors want to know whether inflation rates have an effect on gold prices. What history indicates is that over the long term, increased inflation should lead to correspondingly higher gold prices. From September 1971 to August 2020, gold grew 7.5 times as much as inflation. Not only can an investment in physical gold help protect your assets against the damage done by inflation, it can also help grow the value of your retirement portfolio over the long term. If you're looking to protect your retirement assets, why wait until stock markets crash and gold begins to rise in price?